So if you consider that the most important thing that you can do this Christmas or any time, no matter what your spiritual path is, the most important thing you can do is to find that treasure. And then you might wonder, well, how does that help the world if I find my own hidden treasure? How does that discovery alleviate pain, suffering, inequality, all the ways and the things that we see that represent lack of love, everything that we see in the world today? How can you, by finding your own peace, your own joy, possibly help others? So let me share with you a dream I had, because I was wondering the same thing. If anyone is a student of A Course in Miracles, you would know or realize that the whole spiritual practice is about becoming aware of your inner light and anything that might be obstructing that light or blocking that light from your awareness. You work with the spirit to heal. So when I became dedicated to this path, I also was very aware of pain and suffering, not only my own, but whatever I saw in the world. And I couldn't commit to a path that did not also help heal the world. So I asked this question: how does my dedication to this path help others who are suffering and in pain? And I was answered in a dream. And I want to tell you the dream, but before I do, I have to explain a little bit of the symbolism of this dream ahead of time. Whenever you have a dream, usually you dream about a building, it usually represents different levels of awareness depending on what floor you're on. So I'm going to give you just a very quick synopsis of these levels of consciousness. So we might say that the third level is what we call our daily life. It is the place where we take action. It's also a state of mind in which you see yourself separate from others. You might see yourself separate from God. You might think that God is out there. You might live by a set of rules or a set of rigid beliefs. And usually when you're living on this awareness on this level, there is not, you don't allow anything too much except for what your five senses tell you. So you determine what is real by your five senses. And then in a dream analogy and a symbol, you go up to what we call the fourth floor or the fourth dimension or the fourth state of consciousness. Now in this state of consciousness, you are beginning to awaken to something invisible, something that your five senses can't detect, but your sixth sense can. And in this level, you're maybe starting to study spiritual themes. You're still judging, but you realize that that judging is a problem and that it is the thing that stops you from becoming aware of the presence of love. In this level, you might learn your mastery of thoughts. You might gain power and strength over your own experiences. And then there's the fifth dimension, the level of consciousness in which you perceive only love as reality. You know only unity and innocence and equality. And you live totally from this state of knowing. So that's a little quick thing about the building. So let me tell you about the dream. Again, my question was, how does going within and how does my own happiness, my own peace and joy heal the suffering of the world? So the dream begins and I'm in a large hotel and I'm in an elevator going down to the lobby. The doors of the elevator open and I see a long line of people. So I step out of the elevator and see what they're in line for. And I look ahead and there's another elevator at the end, but it's stationary and it's been converted into a coffee/muffin shop. So everybody in line is waiting to get their coffee. Now, the people in line are a bit robotic. I would say that they're a little bit mechanical. They are not engaging with one another. Everybody's staring straight ahead. There's no emotion that I could sense. So I decide that getting a cup of coffee is a great idea, so I take my place in line. And soon it's my turn. I enter the small space, and I'm greeted by the barista who's ready to take my order. And I say, "A small cup of coffee, please." Suddenly, her eyes well up with tears. She seems overcome with emotion. And then a bright smile crosses her face. And she says to me, "You don't know how much it means to me to have someone see me, to have someone where I feel so beautiful, I feel so important. You have made me so happy." I'm startled by this reaction. I'm thinking, all I did was ask for a cup of coffee. But then she begins piling into my arms pastries, and I have things with strawberry and whipped cream on top, and she's giving me jugs of coffee, and I'm like, I can't hold it all. And she says, "Please take these as a way for me to say thank you. You have blessed me today." I'm still confused. I didn't know what I did to make her happy. So my arms are full. I say thank you, and I start walking away. And I go back to the elevator. The doors open, and there's a guest standing inside the elevator. And the guest says, "What floor?" And I pause for a moment, trying to remember what floor I came from. Then I remember. And I press the number 5, it lights up, and the elevator starts to ascend back to where I came from. And then I woke up. Isn't that a great answer? So the dream, the stories that we heard tonight, the readings that we heard, they're all pointing to God's plan for salvation. It asks that we ascend to the light, we find our buried treasure, where we will receive all of our spiritual gifts, and that will bring peace and joy to the world. There's a beautiful quote in Lesson 100 in A Course in Miracles. It says, "You are indeed essential to God's plan. Your part is to be happy." That's a new concept. "Without your joy, God's joy is incomplete. Without your smile, the world cannot be saved. Just as your light increases every light in heaven, so your joy on earth calls to all minds to let their sorrows go and take their place beside you in God's plan. God's messengers are joyous, and their joy heals sorrow and despair. They are the proof that God wills perfect happiness for all who will accept their Father's gifts as theirs." So this is saying that the more we accept our spiritual gifts, this divine love, this peace, this joy, the better everyone feels and the brighter our world becomes. So Robert Browning had a beautiful poem. Many of you know it. I'm just going to read a little bit of it because it speaks directly to this, which is our Christmas message. "Truth, or light, is within ourselves. It takes no rise from outward things, whatever you may believe. There is an inmost center in us all, where truth abides in fullness, and to know consists in opening out a way whence the imprisoned splendor may escape." So this Christmas, How about if we bring everything out of the shadows? How do we do that? Let us be honest. That means opening your secrets, your pain, whatever you may be experiencing, to the Spirit's kindly light and healing. And let us be still. Let all of our thoughts that would oppose the truth of our unity, our peace, our joy, let us let them go. But also, let us be receptive. Let us be ready and willing to see how rich we are, how bright our light still shines, and how happy we can be. And when you discover this buried treasure, this inner splendor, this Christ light, what do you do then? Well, you just move about the world. You go get a cup of coffee, you get on an elevator, you have dinner with your family. And if you feel a nudge to go somewhere or say something, you should trust it and you should follow it. And when you show up, others will look on you and they will feel better. For the peace and joy that you bring will heal their sorrows and despair. And it will remind them of God's gifts that are theirs. And those who are becoming sensitive will wonder when you go and show up to these places, who has come into their midst? And some will even say, "Behold, I believe Christ has come for dinner." So let us just take a moment and just soak all of that in.